What's going on, guys? This is Brian from Advancement Hockey Advising here. Today we have a really cool interview here with Gordon Burnett. Now, for those of you who don't know Gordon here, basically he's actually got a really interesting past. So he played hockey at St. Scholastica NCAA D3 for 4 years. Then he went ahead and played some pro hockey, and then he transitioned into a coaching career where he coached college hockey for 1 year, and then he moved on to the Major Junior side of things, where he's now the assistant coach for the Moose Jaw Warriors in the WHL. Now, that's a pretty interesting path because Gordon here has experience at the NCAA level, but also at the Major Junior level. So in this interview here, we really dive into the nuances and what's different about the two levels, who should take what path, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys get a ton of value out of this video here. I think Gordon has a really cool experience and perspective here that he can touch on that can really give you guys some value here. So if you guys like this kind of video here, if you guys get any value out of it whatsoever, absolutely destroy that like button. And if you're new here and if you want to keep seeing these kind of videos, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. All right, before we dive in, one little caveat I want to mention here. Similar to our Derek Roy video, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty here when we were recording on Zoom. You won't see my face, unfortunately. You'll see Gordon's face the whole video here, which is probably what you guys want to see anyways, right? Who cares about what, seeing my face and all that kind of stuff. So that's it. So I just wanted to give that little caveat here before we dive in. All right, all that stuff out of the way, let's dive right into the interview here. Hi, Gordon. Glad to have you on the show here. How you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, same here. So why don't we just kind of kickstart the interview here with, telling the viewers a little bit about yourself and your hockey and coaching background.
Yeah, so I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan. I've been playing and coaching, I guess, most of my life, and not too exciting of a career, really. I played junior hockey, and then I went to school, and then I played some hockey in the minors for a number of years, and then I got into coaching from there. I've had the opportunity to coach some professional hockey at the minor league level, some college hockey, major junior hockey, a year of junior A as well, which was a great experience.
Awesome. Yeah. So you've coached pretty much everywhere. Eh? So good stuff. And what got you into coaching after, your hockey career? What made you decide like, hey, this is the career I want to pursue?
Well, I guess everyone's path is different, but for me and how it started for me, I was still playing. I had hurt my arm. There was a coaching change during that season. And I wasn't around the team. I was in the gym with the physios rehabbing my arm, and there's a coaching change, and the new coach came in. I tried to come back and play we couldn't figure out what was wrong, or the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with my arm. And the new coach knew me a little bit, and he just said, obviously there's something wrong here. You can't move your arm very well. And he said, you're gonna, would you like to be my assistant coach? And we'll figure out what's wrong with your arm when they can, and we'll get it fixed. And so that's how it went. So one day I was still trying to rehab to come back and play, and the next day I was standing on the bench and still seeing doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with it. And anyway, I got it fixed in the summertime. So from the day I stepped on the bench, I really enjoyed it. And for me, I knew that day that I'd like to pursue that if I could and make a living at it and do it as long as I could. So I really enjoyed it from day one, and I've been doing it. I think that's 10 or 11 years ago now.
Nice. And in those 10 and 11 years, what do you think's the biggest lessons that you've learned as a coach?
I think there's a lot of lessons. There's definitely a lot, but the biggest ones I'd say, for a coach to be successful, I think it comes down to preparation, caring about the players that you're working with and doing everything you can for them. I think no matter what the level, even when you're in minor pro, you're trying to develop them and make them better players and try and win. Obviously, the development side gets a little bit heavier as the younger you get, but I think just understanding what really goes into it, the grind of coaching, the hours that go in, and what's all involved.
No, for sure. And I totally agree with preparation. You mentioned that. Why is preparation so important for succeeding, as a hockey coach, as a player, and anything in life, really? Why is it so important?
Well, if you're going to succeed, you better be prepared. And, when preparation meets an opportunity, you have the opportunity to be successful. So I think as a coach, being prepared, when you know what the other teams are going to do, or you have a really good idea what the other team's going to do, and your players understand that you've prepared them for whatever situation that's going to happen during that game. I think that they obviously understand and respect that, and they need to have trust in you behind the bench as you direct them what to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. You just mentioned mentioned, players trusting you and being so important. What are some things as a coach, and also too, I guess the second part of the question, as a player, what are things you can do to build trust with your team?
I think it's building a relationship with them. Just talking to them every day. You work hard for them. You're on the phone with scouts, and always having their back, and you're being honest with scouts as well, and what the player really is as a player, as they see, and answer their questions. But the player needs to know you have their back, and then all the work that you put in behind the scenes. And when they come in the next day after a game, and you have their clips ready, and you go show them, and trying to make them a better hockey player. And there's relationships that get formed during those times, and I think they understand that when they come in and they've gone home after the game and had a meal and gone to bed, and you've been up late or up early and preparing clips for them in order to make them better. I think that they respect that and understand what you're trying to do for them. And then just, I think having conversations that don't involve hockey, how are they doing away from the rink? How's things at the billets? Have they talked to their mom and dad lately? How's their brother and sister doing? Asking them questions like that and really listening to the answer, I think helps build relationships with the players. And once you do that, and they understand that you really care about them, I think that's when they begin to trust you and really believe that you have their best interest at heart. And I think at the end of the day, that's what every coach is trying to do.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with that. That, to really build that trusting relationship, I feel like the players, and me personally, when the coaches that I knew that had my back, that took the time to, talk to me just a little bit extra, a couple minutes every time we saw them or whatever. Those are the coaches that I really respected, that I knew they had my back, and I knew they had my best interest in mind. And it really made a difference. I really want to, go that extra mile and really fight for that coach. So for me as a player, I totally agree with that. It made a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think the players know that. The players are smart these days. They know if you care or if you don't.
Yeah, no, 100%. I kind of want to move in a slightly different direction here. So I know you've played, at St. Scholastica, NCAA D3 hockey. You've coached there as well, and now you're at the major junior level. I want to get your take, because, I get a lot of players asking me, what's the best path? Should I go major junior? Should I go the NCAA path? What's the best path for me? And I'm wondering, when should a player, consider going more towards a major junior path? And when should the player consider maybe, going more the NCAA path instead?
Yeah. And I appreciate that question. I think it's a tough answer, really. Like, for me, I have to say, and I know this isn't groundbreaking or anything, but every player is different. Every player's path is different. Their development path is different. So for a player to make that decision, I guess really these days it kind of comes down to, in the West anyway, we draft players when they're 15 years old. And so then they don't really have to make a decision at that point. They have to, I guess, decide if the team offers to sign them and bring them in. Obviously, they have to make a decision then. But I think when a player has a self-evaluation of where they're at in their career and in their development, they need to, and hopefully with their parents and maybe some advisors and other hockey people that they trust, make an evaluation of where they're at and where they could fit into the team that maybe has drafted them. Or maybe they've decided that maybe they need a little bit longer of a runway, and maybe they want to play junior A hockey and keep their options open to go to school down south and pursue an NCAA scholarship. And I know that's not a great answer, but for me, it's an honest one. I think the players that their development path is maybe accelerated and they're ready at 15 years old, 16 years old to come and play for us, and some at 17 as well. I think it's a great opportunity for them to come play at this level. It's great hockey. To me, it's the best development league in the world. We work tirelessly for our players to try and make them better every single day. And that's not to say everyone else isn't doing that either, but our kids start at 16 and some of them stay all the way till 20. Most are gone at 19, but the other player, there's nothing wrong with taking a longer path and a longer runway in their development and going to play junior for a couple of years, and then heading down to school and playing in the NCAA, which is incredibly good hockey as well. I had the opportunity to coach it for a year, and the level of hockey is incredible. There's great players in that league, and a number of them obviously, when you turn on the TV at night and watch an NHL game, a number of them are playing there as well, just like from our league.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great answer. Of course, you can't, it's not a one size fits all. Every player is different. And I tell my guys that all the time. It really depends on a number of things. But as general rules, like you said, if a player is young, they're ready, and they're ready to make that step, Major Junior is a good option to look at. It's probably one of the best. It's the best option, I would say, if they're young. There's NCAA too. That's a good option to look at. But usually NCAA is for guys that want to go a bit that longer path, that really prioritize education and everything. But on the other hand too, like you can still go Major Junior, get a U Sports package out of it, and go play U Sports as well. So there's a bunch of different avenues you can go, and both options are very, very solid.
Absolutely. And, it's like, I guess the real difference is, are you ready when you're 16, 17? Because unless you're accelerated in school, you can't go to the NCAA until you're 18 years old for most players. And so if you're really ready to take a next step in the level that you're playing, that's usually, to me, the determining factor. But it's just different for everyone, because once you move away from minor hockey to junior hockey, I think the game changes drastically, and it's an understanding of, are you ready to now you're just not out there doing what you want, and not that you don't do run systems and all those things in minor hockey, but at the junior level, the coaches are asking you to play a system and do things the way they wanted it done, and everyone's got to be on the same page. And you're playing out there as a 6-man unit, and I always include the goalie in there, but it's so important, and some players just aren't ready for that at 16 years old, and some are. So both paths are great, and it's just different for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm just curious, off the top of my head, how do you know, as a player, and I guess as a coach too, if you're ready to make that jump to the Major Junior level?
I think it really comes down to your own self-assessment. I think, which is not easy. Like we see it all the time. There's players that may have had a bad night, and they'll come in and maybe think or saw the game a little differently than we saw. And that's fine. And part of our job is to make them understand when they were really good and when they unfortunately were really bad. And it happens all the time. And as a player grows and matures, I think their self-assessment becomes more realistic. And I think players these days can rely on more than just themselves. Like, they have access to the video as well. Some of them do choose to watch it, not just the stuff that we show them. They have agents and advisors, their mom and dad, other maybe former coaches or what have you. I think trying to take all that information and just being honest with yourself to where you're really at. And I think that's one of the biggest keys these days.
For sure. Like looking at a bunch of different aspects, right? Asking opinions from different people, looking at video, all that. It gives you a good idea as to, okay, am I really ready to make that jump, or should I stay back another year, or maybe go a different route too?
Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with staying where you're at, dominating the level where you're at, getting more puck touches, all those things that come along with maybe being a little bit older in the league that you're in, or maybe just being maybe a step ahead of some of the players at the league you're in. All of a sudden now you're controlling the play, you're dictating the play, maybe offensively and defensively. And there's nothing wrong with that. Learning to dominate is a skill as well. So it's sometimes that's a better route to take and hold and be held back a year than to go to a higher level where maybe you're treading water for a while, and it's tough to develop as a player if you're just trying to tread water.
No, I couldn't agree more with that. And I tell my guys this all the time: 9 times out of 10, you're better to go stay back a level where you're going to play, rather than go to a level where you're not quite ready, where you're going to be on the fourth line, get healthy scratch and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes that's the right decision, but most of the time staying back for 1 year to develop, learn how to dominate, get more puck touches, develop better. So for next year, you show up better and you get more ice time that way. I think usually 9 times out of 10, it's the best move.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation every spring or every fall, I should say, in training camp, is what's best for this player. Is it best for him to stay here and understand and maybe be in another lineup, but understand that, he's going to get better at practice as well? Or is it better to go back to the level he's at, dominate there, and then come back the next year and he'll be more ready and to contribute earlier than he would if he stayed and practiced and maybe didn't play as much as some of the others.
Yep, for sure. So just one more question on, Major Junior and NCAA. So you've seen like both of them, and you've seen both aspects. What's the difference in terms of the style of hockey? I've seen, both of them as well. I feel like there's a difference of style between both. I kind of want to get your take, see what do you think is different between the two when you see guys?
Yeah. So they're both very well coached. The coaches at both levels are incredible. For me, like the guys that I coached with at the University of Notre Dame are very, very smart guys. Their teams are very well prepared. I think, the kids, depending on which school you're at, are a little older. Obviously, our oldest players, and we only have 3 of them, are 20. So they're a little bit bigger and stronger, maybe a little bit more mature at the NCAA level. But maybe you have some younger, higher skilled players at 17 eligible for the draft that are going to develop into those elite players. But as far as style of play, like hockey in North America, like they're not that different from each other. I'd say, on a Friday night on campus, and the kids I've been practicing all week. I know there's a lot of energy on Friday night. There's some big checks early in the game. The schedule's a lot tighter. They play about 36 games depending where you're at, and every game is that much more important. So there's that much more energy involved in the game. There's that much more emotion in the game. The preparation from week to week, you typically have 4 days of practice preparing for usually just one team on the weekend, so the teams know each other extremely well. They're both extremely prepared. Where here at our level, we play now a 68 game schedule here in the Western Hockey League. We've reduced it by 4 in the last couple of years. We play 3 times a week, a lot of weeks. There's not as much practice time. We still practice a lot, but not quite as much, and not as much preparation for a specific team that you're going to see twice in 1 week. Like, for example, this week, we do actually have 4 days of practice, but we're going to play we're going to play Calgary on Friday, and we're going to play Lethbridge on Saturday. So really, we don't have to make as many tweaks towards what they're going to do. We're more worried about ourselves, and that's not saying that NCAA teams aren't worried about themselves as well. But for us, because we see so many different opponents every week, that we're worried about what we're going to do and make sure we're executing at the highest level we can in our systems, in our habits, in our details, and we really focus on ourselves. And maybe there's 1 or 2 things that we pick up in the pre-scouts that we might just tweak in what we're doing, or maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but maybe focus on another option that's something that we already do. So maybe we're going to try and get it at the middle of the ice instead of using the wall or what have you, versus one team or another, if they take away the walls versus the middle or what have you. So we really focus on ourselves, I think, a little bit more than when you have 4 days of practice to worry about just one team that you're going to see.
Yeah, for sure. From what I've noticed, and maybe it was a bad question on my end, but I kind of want to pick apart the key differences between the two. What I've seen is usually major junior, it's younger, typically a little bit more skilled there in the game. The puck moves really well, really smoothly. And NCAA, it's older, more mature guys, a little bit stronger, just because they're older. And, because it's a more condensed schedule, it's like every game really matters almost that much more, but I know at the major junior level too, guys really care as well. It's just a little bit of a different dynamic,
Yeah, absolutely. And the younger player maybe still hasn't learned to work away from the puck or how to use his teammates as well as maybe an older player in college. So, maybe a little bit more of trying to break guys down one-on-one. And it's not what we're coaching, but at the same time, young guys that are highly skilled, they have that confidence and belief in themselves that they can make this play. They can go through this guy. So yeah, I'd agree with that. And maybe I didn't answer your question very well, but I do agree with what you're saying. And there is a little bit more of a break you down one-on-one a little bit at our level with some of the younger guys, because they are highly skilled and they can make those plays. For us, it's about teaching them where maybe they should do that, and maybe where they might want to use their teammate or live to fight another day. Or maybe it's about talking to the guy about working for his teammate to get into a spot so the other guy doesn't have to maybe make a one-on-one play.
Yeah, no, for sure. I couldn't agree more. So moving away from the NCAA versus major junior aspect. So I'm curious on your end, what do you think makes a leader, and what's like your overall definition of leadership? How do you spot a leader in the room on a team?
Well, I think that first of all, you have to be a good player. You have to be respected by your teammates as far as your ability on the ice.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Then after that, it's not always about the guy that talks the most or anything like that, but it is about a guy that shows up and works hard, and he works hard every day. I think that's something that we're looking for. And then For me, a guy that really cares, he really cares, and whether it's his competitiveness or there's other ways that they show it, but being early, putting in extra time, helping out a teammate, showing his teammates he cares and his teammates understand that. I think when you're looking for leadership qualities, those are ones that you can look for that might help you find maybe a potential future captain or someone that you might put an A on earlier on in his career that he may turn into a captain. But when these young players come in, I don't want to say leadership doesn't exist. I think it's not as developed when it shows up anymore. There's not like that true guy that comes in that's, oh, this guy's the leader. This guy's going to be the next captain of our team. I think it has to be developed a lot. I think it comes through conversations with the coaches because they don't know that. They don't know that. They're just good at hockey and that's why they're here. And they don't understand that, how they have to conduct themselves and on a daily basis. And it's really about consistency as well. They can't just show up one day early and stay late and think now they're a leader. They got to do it every single day. So those are some of the things that we look for as coaches, and our conversation and interactions with all the players, they reveal those things. I don't think you can fake it. You either want to be a responsible guy that cares, that shows up and works every day, or maybe you don't want to be a leader anyway. You just want to show up, you want to work on your skills, you want to become a better hockey player, and you want to lead. And that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think some of those things I mentioned are what we look for, and then we'll try and bring some more of that out and try and develop them into a leader as they're with us for a number of years, and eventually we put a letter on their chest, and hopefully that develops maybe an A into a C as they move on and develop with us.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned that you can't fake leadership, and I totally agree with that, because you can maybe fake it in the short term, but in the long term, you're like, people just know, right? If you're a true leader, if you're not leading by example. It comes to what you said, to be consistent and to consistently show up to workouts on time, give it your all and all that kind of stuff, consistently do all the right things. And by doing that, then you build respect amongst your teammates, amongst the coaching staff and everything. And then you can say like you're being a leader, but you can't fake it. You can't just do it a couple of days and then think people respect you as a leader. That doesn't work. You really have to do it consistently over time for people to respect that.
Absolutely.
So in terms of like, as a leader, I know, a lot of people go through, adversity, and a lot of people have trouble, like really challenging things can arise throughout a hockey career and throughout life as well. And I'm wondering on your end, like what have you done in the past to kind of go through adversity, and what have you seen like other players do to like go through challenging situations to be able to get through it and come out better on the other side?
I'd say for me, what comes to mind as far as adversity when I was a player, if that's what you want to talk about, it wasn't much of a player, but I think I had a couple serious injuries that when you have those injuries that end your season, I think it's very hard mentally to, first of all, go through the procedure, the operation, and then you're away from your teammates. You're in with the first of all, the physios, and then the rehab guys and the trainers. And it's a long process, I think, physically and mentally, to come back, and then not only to make yourself physically ready to play again. And it's a harder game, or is a harder, maybe more physical game back then, but and the way I played it, but and then once your body's physically ready to get back on the ice and physically engage with guys and become the player that you need to be every night to play the role that your coaches are asking you to do. So I think it happened a couple of times with myself. And I think that's a little bit of adversity that I faced with when I was playing. Some of the stuff you see, I think we see it, and the exact same adversity with our guys. I think I have a soft spot for the guys that get hurt, and I enjoy helping them get back. Like as a coach, I deal more with okay, now they're ready to get on the ice. We gotta get them ready to play as far as their on ice fitness level, and they're I guess are they ready to engage with another player and push and be hit and be pushed on and in the walls and shoot well. Maybe you're getting pushed on and all those different things. So I think I have a soft spot for those guys, and I enjoy that aspect of it. And the player really has to dig in, because those are hard skates when you're preparing to come back from an injury. And I've done a number of them, and and I do them here weekly with our guys as they're coming back. And I think that's tough for a player. And I think it's a little tougher today, especially when you're away from your teammates a little bit and you're kind of working on your own. I'm not sure if that answers an adversity question, but I do think that is a type or a form of it that is tough. The guys that come back from it are even better after an injury, that's to be respected, because all the work they put in when the lights weren't on is to be respected, because it's not easy.
No, it does answer the question. And I think injuries are one of the toughest things an athlete can go through, not only physically, because there's a lot of pain that's associated with the recovery process, but mentally it's very difficult, because you're never sure if you're going to come back the same, if you're going to come back worse or better or anything like that. And, when I got injured, I always felt like I was almost letting my team down because I couldn't play, I'd always try and come back early to try and play games. And sometimes that was to my detriment. And I think, it's important to know that you kind of got to trust the process, go through it. And, and so you can become better and you'll get through it eventually. But I think it's definitely a hard process for players to go through, and to be aware of it's important.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I got a couple more questions for you before we kind of wrap things up here. So moving in another direction a little bit. So what are the top 3 things that you look for in a player?
For me, I think it's competitiveness. I value a lot. I think it's becoming harder and harder to find. I love a kid that competes as hard as he can in every puck, in every scenario. I think obviously skill these days is huge, and there's a lot more of it out there. So competitive player, competitive skill, and then obviously a player that can think the game with a high IQ is, I'd say those are the top 3 things for me. Smart, competitive, skilled player. I still want some size, but it's not in the top 3, because I think if you have those 3 things, you can overcome some of those disadvantages you have if you're a smaller guy too.
For sure. Totally agree with that. And in terms of hockey IQ, do you think, a player can develop that, or do you think it's something that players just typically have or they don't have?
No, I think for sure you can develop hockey acumen. It's a game. I think game sense is something that can be learned. I think it comes with working hard at practice every day, paying attention in the video sessions, paying attention when the coach is drawing on the board, paying attention when the coach is just talking about hockey or talking about a scenario on the ice. And I'll be honest, the 4th skill would have been paying attention, because if you can't pay attention and you can't listen, it's tough to develop your hockey IQ. So I think it's so important, but I do believe it can be taught. I think, you want to teach the game. Like I mentioned earlier, like the game changes so much as you move up levels. And I think it's important. And I look at coaching like teaching, and we're trying to teach them the game of hockey, obviously the game of life as well through the game of hockey. But I really think it's important that they understand the game at its highest level. And I believe that these kids are smart and they can understand it, and they watch NHL games. And I think they see reoccurring situations all the time, and some of them figure them out how they should be played quicker than others. But I do believe hockey IQ can be taught. I do think that.
I totally agree with you. I think by watching hockey, by watching the pros play, by watching video of yourself, paying attention, like you said, to the coaches, paying attention is so important. So many players I see, they zone out during video sessions and all that kind of stuff. That's where you can really learn and develop your hockey IQ. So I think I think paying attention is a great point. Great skill to have.
And the game is so fast, right? And its transitional nature makes it maybe a little bit tougher to plan out. And, we all have our systems, etc. But there are reoccurring scenarios, and some of the players can figure out, and the coaches know them. But, but if there's a reoccurring scenario that's relevant, we can recreate at practice, and then we start teaching them that. I think that helps players learn. And then all of a sudden they see it in a game, and it happens in a game, and they recognize it, and they're quicker maybe than their opponent to recognize that situation. and all of a sudden they make the right play, and let's say we get out of our zone cleaner from whatever the situation might have been. Maybe they really didn't know it before, they didn't understand it, but now that they've learned it and recognized it, now all of a sudden they, for a scout or what have you, maybe they just fooled the scout that they have hockey IQ, but they are learning it slowly because it was a reoccurring situation that was relevant, repeatable is what I look at. And I think all those situations can be taught, and as the more you teach the kids and the more they realize and recognize them in a game scenario, the more people might say, oh, that player has a higher hockey IQ than maybe someone that's not recognized in that situation.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, honestly. All right, so last question for you. What's your last piece of advice that we kind of didn't touch on today, or that we could have touched on today, that you have for young hockey players out there?
There's so much out there that I guess could be said. I guess, just if you're a young player that wants to continue on in the game, whether that's to just play junior hockey or maybe to play junior and then go to school, or play hockey at school while you're getting your education, I think it's just about not quitting and showing up every day and working as hard as you can, and just making sure you have the right attitude every day. And coaches see that and they recognize that you can't get too down on yourself. You can't be too hard on yourself. It's still a game. It's supposed to be fun. I know it gets serious. It does get serious a lot of the days, but at the same time, you got to try and have some fun every day, smile every day, and enjoy the process. And players will hear that a lot, but it's true. Like the monotony of getting better, the repetition of what you got to do to get better every single day and work hard at it. You gotta somehow find the joy in that. Because some days if you can't find the joy in it, it's hard. And if you can find the joy in it and recognize this is what it takes to get better, and you truly want to get better, you can have a lot of fun while you're doing it. So I think just showing up every day, having a good attitude and working hard, if that's what you truly want, then you should go after it. You continue to work and continue to go after it.
No, for sure. Enjoying the process. It's true. We hear it so many times because it's true. It's sometimes it's hard to find that joy, but you got to find a way, because that's how you keep going, and that's how you can make it in the long term. So I think that's a great message and a great way to end this interview. So Gordon, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. You gave some great advice that I know our viewers are going to love. So thanks so much for your time, and hopefully maybe in the future we can have you back on one day.
Absolutely, Braden. I appreciate you having me anytime. Seriously, I really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully there's something in there that your guys can use.
Awesome stuff. All right. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, guys, that is it for the video. We hope you guys enjoy this. Like I said before, it was a different take, right? It was an interesting perspective where you could see someone that's been both on the NCAA side of things and on the Major Junior side of things firsthand, and someone that could really give you a good perspective as to what decisions you can make throughout your hockey career. So hopefully you guys got a ton of value out of it. If you guys did, if you got some value out of this, absolutely destroy that like button if you haven't already. And if you like this kind of video, if you're not subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss another video moving forward. Throughout the video, if you had any questions, anything you want to talk to us about whatsoever, feel free to absolutely drop a comment down below. Or if you want to talk to us privately, absolutely send us an email at info@ahadvising.com and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. All right, guys, that is it for the video. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on that next one.